What's up, everyone? I'm just on my way from taking the COVID-19 test, and I'm on my way home now. So it went quite well, quite smoothly actually. I'm getting the results on Saturday is when I'm getting the results. So I'm looking forward to a good result, negative result. But that's pretty much the second to last thing I need to do. After I get the results, obviously I have to upload it to the Sierra Leone government website to get my travel authorization, and from there I will basically be all set to go next week. So that's that in terms of my travel arrangements. But I basically just want to have a discussion about the expectations that a lot of African Americans and a lot of diasporans who have never been to Africa, the expectations that they have when they go to Africa. So people think Africa is cheap. That's one of those expectations. The other one is they hold Africa to a much higher standard than most other countries. So, for example, you've got pickpockets in every single country on this earth. But it seems like whenever people go to Africa and they encounter such things, they take it as it's something that is, as if it's something that is like much more worse than just seeing it as, okay, you know, this is a new country, and obviously there's going to be like negative elements to it, in the sense of there's going to be trash in certain places, there's going to be pickpockets, there's going to be a level of lawlessness. Obviously this depends on the country, and it depends on the wealth of the country, because obviously the wealthier the country, the more the more orderly it is usually. So but it seems like African Americans in particular, when they go to Africa, they like to isolate themselves, they like to self-segregate themselves, even though technically they are actually just the same as the Africans. If you look at it biologically and genetically, it's basically the same people, just maybe some were taken to Europe or America during the slave trade, and obviously that's the only difference, to be honest. So it's like they're no different than somebody whose family migrated from Africa to Europe, and then after like a couple of generations, then it's like they then consider themselves to be different people. I think they give themselves like the ADOS tag, which I think is a bit silly, because it doesn't help, you know, it doesn't help. I know that there's some cultural differences between African Americans and Africans, but it's not necessary to have these labels that they give themselves to further, you know, widen the gap between them and the Africans. And the thing that they do not understand is that you cannot go to Africa and expect the Africans to conform to your cultural values and to conform to what you consider good or bad. You can't expect that, because it's like you wouldn't go to any country in this planet that's not your country where you were born, for example, and you expect those people to change to fit you. Like they wouldn't go to Saudi Arabia and then, like, you know, the women start walking around without covering their heads, or start walking around with like booty shorts and stuff like that, because that culture does not tolerate that. And obviously you will get punished if you try and do such a thing, and they're not going to compromise their cultural values just for you because like you're a tourist, or because maybe you look like them. I mean, it doesn't work like that, because African Americans have to understand that Africa has its own culture, and obviously when you go there, you have to try and learn the way Africans do things. For example, I've seen some certain YouTubers who, you know, they're in Africa trying to develop their piece of land, and the the husband, okay, in this family, he acts so goofy sometimes. He acts so goofy, you know, and it's not like he does it like in private. No, he does it in public. You know, he's acting all goofy all the time. And what he doesn't understand is that in Africa, elderly people do not behave like that. Elderly people in Africa do not behave goofy. They just don't do that. When you see them, they're quiet, reserved. That's how Africans expect the elderly people to behave. But like whenever you're loud, you know, all jokester and making jokes and just trying to be funny, that's Africans just see that and they think like this person is not correct in their head. That's literally what they think. But the African Americans will not realize this because they think that, oh, they're just like having fun. And no, it's something that like you have to take note of actually. When you go to a place, you have to try and study the culture and try and study how these people conduct themselves. Africans in general, when you're of a certain age, you basically stop acting goofy and you stop just being loud, obnoxious, trying to get attention. You stop all of that. When you're in public especially, you're calm, collected, because this is what they expect of somebody who is an older person, you know, especially someone with white hair on their head. So that is just one thing. But the other thing I'm going to speak on is this expectations that Africa is cheap. I mean, like if you've ever been to Africa, you realize that it is actually not cheap, and in a lot of things Africa is more expensive than Europe. And that makes sense because the import infrastructure is not that advanced, and most of the importing is done by Lebanese, and there's very little government control of these people and, you know, the prices that they set. So in that sense, the Lebanese or the Indians can put any price on the products that they import because they're the ones who do most of the importing. They're the ones who have most of the supermarkets in these places in Africa. So obviously people from the diaspora, and you know, in particular the US, some from the UK, Canada sometimes, they think when they go to Africa they can go and pay they can go and pay like $100 for a very well furnished house, you know, top of the range. They can just go pay $100 because like, oh, it's Africa, so you know everything is cheap. No. No. I mean that's a miscalculation, and some of them have paid for it actually. And once again, a YouTuber family who went to Ghana, and they went there with the expectation that Ghana is going to be like heaven on earth, even though it's close. But they went there with that expectation, and basically they were shocked to find out that Ghana is not what people like Wodemaya portrayed to be in all places. Of course, like Wodemaya focuses on the upper class places, the top of the range houses. Those are the ones he shows. It doesn't show the house that most people in these places live in, which they're not nice. Like, I mean, there's a lot of things that you have to adapt when you go to Africa. You can't expect Africa to be exactly like the US. In terms of your own house, yes, you can make it like you can buy a piece of land, put a fence around it, and within that fence you can make it look like Europe. You can put all the amenities that you're used to in Europe. But that you have to do that. You can't expect to go there and find it. I mean, sure, it might be there, but if you think you're going to go there and buy a house that's on the same level as houses in Europe or America, and they're going to be like super cheap, now you're deluding yourself. Okay, that's like delusional, because you're not going to find that. A lot of people do not realize that houses in Africa, especially within the capital city, they're really expensive, and some of them are even on par with houses in Europe, in European capital cities. So like, for example, I will give Sierra Leone, okay, because that's where I'm used to going, but I'll give that as an example. In Sierra Leone, in Freetown, you cannot find the house within the vicinity of the capital that's like less than $100,000. You can, and even $100,000 is not going to get you something that's like flashy or something that you would consider like average in Europe. No, it's going to give you like probably a rundown house. So people need to understand this, that Africa, yes, it's the only thing that's cheap in Africa, I will say, is labor costs. So if you're building a house, the people who are doing the work for you, you pay them a lot less than in Europe. And in fact, that's not only like building a house, it's like anything that you do in Africa. Labor costs, they're the cheapest. Labor costs are the cheapest. Obviously, because of this, the quality of work is going to be less, and you pay for what you get, pretty much. So if you think you're going to go for the cheapest, then of course it's going to backfire in your face later on, because the structures that will get built, or the work that will get done, will not be of high standard, of high quality. So this is what people have to understand. It's like you can't be cheap all the time and expect like something to be cheap and good at the same time. Like, it doesn't make sense. There has to be compromise. So it's like these are things that African Americans like simply fail to realize when they go to Africa. Like, I mean, you cannot go to an African capital city and find the house, for like $20,000, and it's like right in the center. No, because let me tell you something. All the land in these capital cities, they've been bought. Either they've been bought, or somebody has already built a house on it, or built a business, or built a hotel or whatever. So it's like you can't expect to even find an empty piece of land in the capital. And the only lands that you will find close to the capital are basically like on undesirable places, like on the mountainside, or somewhere that's like just waterlogged, stuff like that. So you're not going to find like a nice flat piece of land next to a road, like in the capital city, or like even within the vicinity of the capital city. Like, because people buy all the land on the roads, like all the land on the roadside, because land next to a road is obviously very valuable because you can open businesses there, and obviously like when you build a house, you don't have to struggle in terms of having an access road, because it's right next to the main road. So so those pieces of land, if there are any, they seem to be super expensive. I mean, I've seen houses in Sierra Leone, like the capital, and yeah, I mean, that same house, if you build it like outside of the capital, then it's not going to be as expensive. But I've seen houses like where people are selling them, or the calling price is like millions of dollars. I'm telling you, like this is just crazy, and people don't do this research, because if they do, then they'll realize that actually Africa is not that cheap. It's not that cheap. It is cheap to build a house, but once again, the materials, okay, they are not cheap. The labor cost is cheap, the materials are not cheap. So cement is actually not cheap in Africa. Iron rebar, or reinforcement rebars, they're not that cheap in Africa. So and these are things that people just they have to be mindful of when they decide, oh, I wanna go to Africa and start fresh, because for whatever reason, maybe they have a lot of issues where they're coming from, and they think that Africa is the best place for them to go to run away from these issues. But I'm telling you that Africa is not what a lot of people think it is. It really isn't. It's not all fun and games anyways. Yeah, if you've got money, like if you're already wealthy, and maybe you have a business that generates income for you, then you will be all right. I mean, you'll be quite good. But if you're just somebody who saved maybe like $10,000, decide, oh, I'm gonna just get up and go to Africa, and I'm going to live like a king on that $10,000. Well, guess what? Yes, you will live like a king, but only for like 4 months, or maybe even like 2 months, depends on how you're spending. But you'll soon realize that $10,000 will get eaten up like so quickly by all the expenses that you'll incur on yourself. Not only for your accommodation, but also for your transport is also not that cheap actually. You would think it will be, but it's not. So you will incur a lot of expenses. And the other thing that also tips the scale when it comes to people who are coming from the diaspora is that when people see you, obviously we all know this, they will spike up the prices. They even have it, they call it like the Tubab price, or in Sierra Leone they call it the JC price. So it's basically somebody who just came from a country that these people think is wealthy, then they're going to obviously like give you a higher price than someone who is a local. And trust me, there's no way you can avoid that, because they will sit in you. They don't even have to like be next to you, or you don't even have to open your mouth. They will know that you come from Europe, or you come from overseas, as they call it. So, and at the end of the day, you just have to like be smart and know like, okay, roughly this is how much they sell a pair of shoes. So, you know, like I'm going to negotiate along that price. And Africa, you gotta negotiate. You have to negotiate. Like you can't just take the first price somebody gives you. You can't do that. And in most places there are no price tags. Maybe in supermarkets, yes, but in like usual places that where you buy most things, there are no price tags. So you always negotiate. This is something that I myself kind of hate about Africa, because it's kind of a pain sometimes to you know, to be forced to have a conversation, like a long drawn out conversation with someone, when I literally just want to buy something, you know. But instead I end up having to like negotiate, try to like, you know, get the price down, and it's just it's sometimes it's a pain in the ass. But you know, I mean, that's the culture, you know. You just gotta adapt, like I say. And if you do adapt, the people who have adapted, they're doing well in Africa. They're doing well, living comfortably. So at the end of the day, Africa is I'm not going to say like it's not like a paradise in that sense, but Africa can be a paradise, depending on your circumstance. So, and at the end of the day, you also have to like try and learn the local culture, because well, I've been saying that quite a lot, because it's quite important. But like local culture and the language, that's another thing. The language, you have to try and learn it, because if you are in Gambia, for example, or you're in one of these African countries where they do not speak English, or where English is not like the main language, then basically you're going to be at a disadvantage. You're going to be at a disadvantage. So it's in your interest to actually learn the language, and that way you'll be able to absorb the culture much easier if you know the language. But you cannot expect to live somewhere for like 5 years and not being able to speak even a sentence of the local language. I mean, that is just laziness, and that's just like it's not good. I mean, it's not good, you know. And whatever happens to you in terms of like getting scammed, or you know, having misunderstanding with people that you hire, well, guess what? You caused that. You contribute towards that. Yes, some of these people, they scam. Some of them, they don't know how to do the work, but they'll say that they know. But you can reduce that if you know the local language, because you can just tell them what you want exactly, and they'll do it. And obviously if they don't do it to the standard, then you know, you find somebody else. But if you do know the local language, then you can pick up a lot of things, you know, that somebody who doesn't will not be able to. So these are things that people just gotta really just make an effort, because there's just a lot of laziness going on within the people who are in this Black Seed movement. And actually I'll make another video on why the Black Seed movement is going to fail if they do not change their approach. Because if they do not change their approach, okay, if they think that African leaders are their friends, and African leaders are just going to bend backwards and be like, oh, here you go, free citizenship or automatic citizenship, then they're sorely mistaken. They're sorely mistaken. And I will do another video on that at a later point, just to explain why the Black Seed movement is kind of it's not succeeding at the moment. So, but at the end of the day, that is pretty much, you know, all I have to say on this issue of expectations that people have when they think about moving to Africa. So I'm just gonna leave it there, and I would like to ask you people watching to like, subscribe, and share, and also make sure to press on the notification bell button, because otherwise you won't be able to get a notification when I post a new video. So, and I will be posting quite a lot in the next couple of days, because next week I'll be going to Sierra Leone, so that's when I'll start posting quite frequently. So it's in your interest to do that. So I will just leave it for there. I'll leave it there rather. So take care and have a nice day.